Have you ever wondered why, one of your colleagues just absolutely steamrolls through a Tuesday morning meeting to get things done, while another one, well, they need a full week just to analyze a spreadsheet before making a single move?
Yeah, and you're sitting there thinking, like, are they doing this just to annoy me?
Right, but they aren't. You just operate on different frequencies. And before we get into exactly why that happens, a quick note for you. BYOFAQ is not affiliated with or endorsed by or certified by any commercial behavioral assessment provider.
Exactly. This deep dive is purely general educational commentary on behavioral concepts.
Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk about those different frequencies. The framework that decodes them is called DISC.
Right. And our mission today is really to demystify DISC. We want to strip away the corporate jargon, understand its origins, and decode the four main styles using some familiar fictional characters.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it helps make it real. And most importantly, we'll look at why identifying these patterns is the absolute key to stopping workplace friction from feeling so intensely personal.
I want to start by actually defining the acronym, just because people throw the word DISC around without really knowing what the letters stand for.
Right, they just say it.
Yeah, so we're talking about dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. But before we, start applying those labels to our coworkers, let's look at where this came from, because I know William Marston published Emotions of Normal People back in, 1928?
Yes, 1928. So this isn't some modern consulting fad. It's almost a century of psychological observation.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Marston noticed that human behavior tends to fall into these distinct patterns, and he mapped them across two intersecting dimensions.
Okay. What are the dimensions?
Well, the first one is about how you approach problems or people. So are you assertive, meaning you naturally act on your environment?
Like you push outward.
Exactly.
All right.
Or are you reserved, meaning you sort of observe and react to it. You take it in.
Not.
Then the second dimension is where your focus lies.
Mm.
Like, are you primarily task-focused, seeing a goal to be achieved, or are you people-focused, seeing the actual humans involved in achieving it?
So you have these two axes, right? Assertive versus reserved, and task versus people. And where those intersect, you get 4 quadrants.
You do.
But I want to push back here for your sake, speaking to the listener, because I know you might be sitting there thinking this is just another way to rank employees.
Oh, yeah. That happens a lot.
Like, wait, so does this measure if someone is actually smart? Or, if they have good moral character? Because people constantly use these tests to judge competence.
Right, and that is the fundamental rule of the DISC framework. It absolutely does not measure intelligence, competence, or morals. Not at all.
Okay.
It strictly maps behavioral preference patterns. If you think about it from like an evolutionary or neurological standpoint, when you're under pressure, your brain experiences cognitive load.
Sure, you get stressed.
Exactly. And it wants to conserve energy. So it takes the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
DISC simply describes that default operating system.
Ah, I see.
It's how you naturally tend to respond when the stakes get high and your brain just doesn't have the extra energy to adapt to the situation.
So it's really how you prefer to act, not how well you actually do the job.
Exactly. It's a survival mechanism. When stress hits, your brain falls back on whatever feels safest to you.
Okay, let's frame this around a specific narrative so we can see these survival mechanisms in action. Imagine a team is 2 weeks behind on a major product launch.
Oof. High stress.
Right. The pressure is on, stress is high, cognitive batteries are draining fast. How do the 4 different styles react to that crisis? And just to keep this totally objective, we agreed to use fictional characters to decode these quadrants.
Yeah, let's start with the high D.
Okay.
So that's the dominance quadrant. This is the task-focused, assertive style. We call this the problem solver.
Okay, so they're pushing outward and focused on the goal.
Right. So under the stress of a delayed launch, the high D wants autonomy, they want results, and they want momentum. They solve problems by making immediate decisions.
They just go.
They just go. They aren't afraid of breaking something in pursuit of a better outcome. I mean, they will aggressively cut features just to hit the deadline.
Speed over perfection, then.
Always. If a high D has to choose between a pretty good decision made in 5 minutes or a perfect decision made in a week, they take the 5-minute decision every time.
Oh, okay.
The stress triggers this really deep need for control. Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones is our perfect fictional example here.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Right. Tywin decides quickly, and he just wants outcomes. He really doesn't care how his army or even his own family feels about the strategy.
Yeah, feelings are completely irrelevant to him.
Exactly. He expects execution, he thinks out loud, and he just moves forward.
Okay, so that's the high D. What about the high I? That's the influence quadrant, right?
Yeah.
The assertive but people-focused style.
Yes, the connector. Under that exact same launch delay stress, the high I actually gains energy from interaction.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, their survival mechanism triggers a need for alliance and consensus. They persuade through enthusiasm and, social proof rather than commanding people like Tywin would.
They're the ones ordering pizza for the team working late.
Exactly. They're worrying about whether morale is crashing.
They want to bring everyone along for the ride, make sure nobody, rage quits out of frustration.
Right. And our example here is Leslie Knope from Parks and Recreation.
Of course. That makes so much sense.
She builds her base through genuine connection. She's relentlessly optimistic. She recruits people to her vision through just the sheer force of her personality.
Yeah, she doesn't really order people around.
No, she uses that social connection to move projects forward.
Yeah.
She pulls you to the goal by making you actually want to be there.
Okay, wait. I'm struggling a bit with the reserved half of the matrix, specifically the difference between a high S and a high C. If they're both reserved styles who, slow down under pressure, how do I actually tell them apart in a meeting?
Well, it comes down to their focus.
Mm.
So the high S, the steadiness quadrant, is reserved but people-focused. We call them the stabilizer.
Okay.
In our delayed launch scenario, their stress triggers a need for predictability. They hold the team together through consistency. They listen way more than they talk. And they often resist sudden, chaotic changes to the project plan.
Because they're stubborn.
No, out of a genuine concern for the team's well-being, they know sudden changes burn people out.
Oh, I see. So they're the ones building the detailed, realistic schedule to get everyone back on track without destroying the team's weekends.
Exactly. And our source material gives us Hermione Granger from Harry Potter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, think about Hermione. She's incredibly dependable. She doesn't necessarily seek the spotlight, right? But she makes absolutely sure the actual work gets done.
She keeps the group grounded.
And keeps them alive, honestly. The high S is often underestimated because they don't really self-promote, but they are the safety net that ensures projects actually ship and morale stays solid.
Okay, which brings us to the high C, the conscientiousness quadrant. This is the task-focused, reserved style.
Right.
If the high S focuses on protecting the people during the delay, what does the high C do?
The high C, the analyzer, focuses on protecting the work itself. Their stress triggers a need for certainty and, above all, the avoidance of error.
Okay.
They slow down to think. They need data. They constantly ask why, and they build arguments from first principles. They're the ones demanding to know exactly why the project fell 2 weeks behind, so the error is never repeated.
And they probably refuse to ship the product until every critical bug is fixed.
Exactly.
They're the skeptics.
They are, but their skepticism doesn't come from negativity. It comes from a genuine need to understand a system before they commit to it. Sherlock Holmes is our example here.
Right. Purely interested in the data.
Yes. He's skeptical of assumptions. He needs to see the entire logic chain before accepting a conclusion. And he frankly doesn't care at all about social pleasantries.
He just cares about what is verifiably true.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to try an analogy here to explain how these behaviors operate under pressure. Tell me if this works.
Let's hear it.
It's like if a project is a moving car, the high D is slamming the gas pedal, the high C is testing the brakes, the high S is keeping the steering wheel steady, and the high I is making sure everyone is singing along to the radio.
Yes. That is a perfect way to synthesize it.
And thinking about that pressure, it's kind of like a smartphone's battery saving mode, right? When your battery is at 100% when stress is low, you have plenty of cognitive energy, you can run any app, you can flex into any of these styles.
There.
But when your battery hits 5% because the stakes are really high, the phone forces you into its default operating system. It shuts down all those secondary background apps just to keep the phone alive.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. Every single one of us has a default operating system, and it takes significant cognitive energy to operate outside of it. Under genuine acute stress, your dominant pattern is what shows up, because your brain is just trying to save battery.
But human beings are rarely, single-note caricatures. Textbook definitions are really clean, but almost nobody is purely one thing all the time.
No, definitely not. We all have primary, secondary, and sometimes even tertiary patterns. Let's look at some of these blended patterns, because our sources give us brilliant fictional examples of what happens when that battery starts draining.
Okay.
Take Miranda Priestley from The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, that is a fascinating blend. Because she's fundamentally a high D, right? She wants fast results, she's highly assertive, and she absolutely dictates action.
Right. But she is operating from a high C value system.
Oh, interesting.
She cares obsessively about the details.
Hmm.
The results she demands must be aesthetically perfect and exactingly precise. A pure high D might say, just get the magazine printed, I don't care if the font is slightly off.
Yeah. Just ship it.
Exactly. Miranda Priestley cares deeply that the font is perfect, but she demands that perfection with the aggressive speed of a high D.
What about Logan Roy from Succession? Because he seems to bounce between styles depending on, like, who's in the room with him.
Yeah, Logan Roy has strong, high I characteristics on the surface. I mean, he enjoys the power, the attention, the social dominance that comes with being at the top of a media empire.
Yeah.
He knows how to play a room, or charm a rival, or work a crowd when he has the cognitive battery to do it.
But when the stakes are real?
When the company is under threat and his battery drops to 5%, his dominant pattern is pure high D. He decides, he acts, and he absolutely does not wait for consensus.
The high I charm just vanishes.
Completely. The background apps shut down, and the high D bulldozer just takes over.
Okay, so a practical question then. Does knowing your blend mean you're trapped? Like, if I'm a high S, am I just doomed to always fear change?
No, people adapt constantly. A high S might lean into their secondary high I pattern to, step up and give a big presentation because they know it serves the team.
Right.
Or a high C might lean into a secondary high D to make a faster decision than they're comfortable with because the deadline demands it. You flex your style all day long.
It just takes energy.
Exactly. It takes energy to flex. When you're depleted, your baseline's going to show up.
And because these patterns are so easily recognizable once you know what to look for, they constantly get weaponized in the office.
All the time.
We really need to protect you, the listener, from the most common workplace misapplications of this framework.
Yeah, the weaponization usually comes from a misunderstanding of what the framework actually is.
Yeah.
There are 4 major things that DISC is definitely not. First, it isn't a personality test.
Right. It doesn't capture who I am as a person.
No. Your personality includes your values, your sense of humor, your life experiences, your dreams. DISC only describes your behavioral preference patterns. It's the how of your behavior, not the why of your soul.
That's a good way to put it.
Second, it isn't predictive of competence. It describes how you operate, not how well you operate. You can have a high C who's a brilliant precision craftsman, but you can also have a high C who is a paralyzed perfectionist who never actually ships a product.
So they both want the data, but one uses it to build and one uses it to hide.
Precisely.
I have to jump in on the third point because people try to use this for hiring all the time. You see companies mandate these assessments before an interview even happens, but using it that way is essentially confusing a person's comfort zone with their actual resume.
Yes. Knowing a candidate is a high C only tells you they prefer interaction and variety. It doesn't mean they possess the actual skill required to, say, close a complex enterprise deal.
Right.
A high C might be a phenomenal salesperson because they know the product inside and out, even if they don't love small talk. Hiring based on these letters is terrible practice.
Which leads to the fourth thing it's not. It isn't a diagnosis or a permanent label. You can't just say, well, I'm a high D, so you just have to deal with me interrupting you.
It isn't an excuse for bad behavior. And on the flip side, saying you're a high S to a colleague should be the beginning of your curiosity about how to work better with them. It shouldn't be a lazy excuse to write them off when you need something done quickly.
So if we aren't using this to hire people, and we aren't using it to label people, how do we actually apply this knowledge? If I walk into the office tomorrow morning, where do I start?
The real value comes from a shift in your own mindset. You shift from interpretation to observation. Team friction is rarely about malicious intent. It's almost always a mismatch in operating speeds.
Interesting.
So tomorrow morning, start by simply observing. Who moves fast in your meetings? Who slows down? When they present an idea, do they lead with data or do they lead with how the relationship will be impacted?
What about interrupting? Because that's a huge source of friction on teams.
Observe the mechanism behind the interruption. If someone is a high D, that interruption is often just a sign of their ideas moving fast. Their brain is processing the goal and just rushing toward it.
It's not malicious.
Right. It isn't intended as rudeness, even if it feels incredibly disrespectful to a high S who really values harmony and turn-taking.
So the greatest insight of DISC is realizing that your coworker's speed is a mechanism for survival, not a weapon of disrespect. You close that gap between intent and impact.
Exactly.
Instead of sitting there thinking, my manager doesn't trust me because they won't approve my plan, you realize, oh, my manager is a high C, and they just need the data first. I didn't give them the safety net of the spreadsheet.
Once you name the pattern, you stop taking the behavior personally. You build the safety net they need.
Yeah.
You provide the details to the high C. You give the high I time to talk things out. You assure the high S that the transition will be gradual.
And you give the high D the bullet points and just get out of their way.
Exactly.
It's giving you a shared language. You realize your colleague isn't actively trying to block your project. They just need stability, and you haven't shown them the safety net yet.
I'll leave you with a thought to mull over as you start observing this. We spent this time talking about individuals under pressure. But what happens when an entire company goes into crisis mode?
Oh, wow.
Organizations have cultures, and those cultures often have a dominant behavioral style. When a crisis hits, does your company default to a high D panic, moving fast and breaking things, or a high C analysis paralysis?
That is a great point.
And when that organizational default takes over, is it leaving half of your staff behind because they physically can't operate on that frequency?
That is a fascinating question to consider about the culture where you work. It's time for our BLUF summary. The bottom line up front. The real work here isn't about paying for a formal assessment. It's using the language of behavioral preference to close the gap between intent and impact, realizing that different working speeds are just survival mechanisms, not personal attacks.
Perfectly said.
That is where we'll leave it for today. Be sure to join us next week, where BYOFAQ will go incredibly deep into the mind, the risks, and the management of the high D. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep observing and keep asking questions.